Sweet.
All right. Okay, I think we're just about all here. What I need you guys to do, in order so you can see everything well, if you would log into the Zoom meeting, you won't need the volume because it will backflow on you big time, but we have a guest speaker, actually several guest speakers. They'll be with us for the next 3 class periods. They're from Nexus Architect Nexus. They've got a presentation for you, and there's going to be probably some hands-on part of this as well, I'm thinking. I'm not sure. We'll find out together. Okay.
Yeah, definitely some question and answer, we're hoping.
Lots of hands, question answer. Okay, we'll do question and answer. So be ready for questions. You might have to come over to my desk though to do the questions. Okay, since you have the mics. We'll be doing this for 3 days. It's gonna put us a little bit on your project on the back burner for a little bit. Don't worry about it. It's what I want to do here. But this should fill in for the lack of not being able to do field trips right now. Okay. So we'll get you all in there, and hopefully get you all in before I switch the room over to our speaker here. So it's Willie Chandler is going to be speaking with you. Yes, sir. On the front page, the big Zoom button that looks kind of like right here, dude. It says Zoom link right there. Oh, history. What's that? It's so old school. No one does history. We just rewrite it. Okay, George. And just about, class actually starts about 4 minutes, Willie, and then we'll get turned over here for you. So I showed them a little bit of your videos on your webpage there when we started. So
awesome.
Excited. And where are you at right now? Are you in Salt Lake or are you down south?
I'm in Salt Lake. I am in my basement.
Oh, fun. Basement living. It's got to love that.
Basement life.
It's the best way to be. Especially if you get Wi-Fi, that's even better. Okay, so you guys got 3 minutes left to connect to Zoom. Looks like I got quite a few who are out today. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's okay. Always a little slow coming in. Good afternoon, morning, and evening. Go and get logged into Zoom if you would. How many is still left to connect to Zoom? Just 2, 3, 4 of you, 5 of you? Okay. While you're getting up, just a reminder, a week from Friday is the Weaver State Design Build Day. You should receive an announcement about that last night with all the links in it. You are more than welcome to come here to participate from 8 to noon. That's a week from Friday, or you can watch it at home if you want. But if you attend all the sessions, then you're in for the $2,000 scholarship. So you might want to get in for that scholarship option. And if you're not a senior, that's fine. They will hold it for you. So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, we're just about there. And if you guys want to use the chat, that might be a good way to get your questions recorded, so we can come back and answer them when the question answer period gets there. Okay. And if you would change your usernames to not your student numbers, but to your names, so we know who's who, would be gratefully appreciated. It's a little different method here. It's a distant learning. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So again, we're going to switch the time over here now. Again, this is Willie. What is your actual title?
I'm an architect.
Cool.
with Architectural Nexus. I know I look like I'm about not much older than the kids in your class, but
That's, you know, architecture keeps you young.
believe it or not.
Okay, we get past these bells, it should be good. All right, I'm gonna give you control now, and you'll be in charge of this completely. So
Okay.
it is yours. So I
Hey, is everyone seeing the big full screen?
not quite. There'll be well in there.
The,
I'm trying to get. Ah. Do this. Got a little trick of switch that. Okay, so you got on. Okay, you're good to go.
We're seeing the main screen.
Yep.
Okay, and we got some people in the waiting room, and I'll just admit them as I see them come in.
I'll be able to do that.
Okay, well, let's get started. Thanks so much for having me here today. In all honesty, I've never taught a course before, so I hope to do at least like a quarter as well as Dr. Paskett here. But
Sorry about that.
But as we were saying, I'm an architect for Architectural Nexus. We're an office in Salt Lake City, and we're here to kind of hopefully convince you of why architecture matters, and hopefully inspire you to get into this field, this profession. Admitting more people from the waiting room.
Yes.
So the big question is, why architecture matters. And I'll just start by saying, why does it matter to me? Early on when I was growing up, I loved drawing and building stuff. And one of the first things I built when I was younger was like this little boat that was literally just a few pieces of wood slapped together. But it was a kind of a cool thing that floated. It was made of wood, so of course it floated. But then I would make skateboard ramps and other things that were fun and useful. Actually worked.
We're trying to.
Everyone hearing me all right?
A little bit of technical thing coming over on my computer screen, which usually works good, but you're not connected to my computer, so they're having a hard time hearing you. So we're just trying to do workarounds here.
Do we want to mute all of the students' computers?
Yeah, we might have. Okay. Okay, I think we might be better. I'm hoping.
Yeah, is that better?
Seems to be.
I'm hearing way less.
Yeah, there's a few mics to look. Okay, we're good. I think we're good.
Okay. Was everything lost from the start?
No, we're good.
Okay. So basically, just I was really interested in building stuff growing up, and ended up in this field, and really enjoyed being able to build things that actually go into the real world, and that really brought up the impact that these things have on the people that use these spaces. What we like to say a lot in our office is, architecture isn't about buildings, it's about people, because the places that we're at really influence the outlook of the people that use them. So we're here to welcome more people into our profession, to welcome more diverse perspectives, and hopefully get you all interested in doing this type of work that can really change the world and help you get there.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe think about this question moving forward. Can architecture influence the identity and emotion of a place and the people that live there? You know, how does the environment that you're in make you feel? Does where you spend your time shape who you are and how you think about yourself? Are there any places in particular that make you feel a strong emotion, whether that's good or bad? Are there places that make you feel a certain way just by being there? Does your environment that you're in currently make you feel happy, hopeless, content, trapped, excited? What is going on architecturally in these places that influences how you feel? And if you were a person designing these spaces, what would you do differently? Just keep that in mind moving forward. So architects design spaces and help create communities. It's true that as architects, we think about things like space and material and how things are put together. But in truth, you know, architecture is about a lot more than that. A lot of people think it's about buildings, but as I said before, architecture is really about people and the spaces that they find themselves in daily. So let me put this question out there. How does this space make someone feel? Does anyone want to chime in on that? And we have kind of a series of these questions about different spaces just to get people thinking.
You can use the chat to answer. That might be a good way to collect some thoughts.
Yeah, good idea.
Where they don't have mics.
Okay. Yeah, if someone wants to just throw something into the chat, then we can just go with that.
So looking at the picture.
Just don't want to be sitting up here talking to you all day. Want to hear what you'll have to think.
Welcome to my
what
world.
you'll have to say.
So when you see that image, what does it make you feel? Because that's a big part of what you do as designer.
So Daniela says calm. What do we comfortable and alive? I like that. Awake. And why do you think that is? The brightness of the room, the plants definitely help. Cool. Yeah, I think what we're really looking at is plants and the light and really making the space make people feel calm and relaxed and comfortable. Let's try it with this place. Yeah, I'd feel kind of tired in here too. Stressed. And compared with the last image, you know, we don't have as much light. There's no plants. This reminds me of the movie Office Space, where everyone hates their job. So let's move on from this one. So this goes beyond buildings, but just the things from the built environment that we could experience every day. How does this image of this bridge make people feel?
You recognize the bridge? Where that's at?
Yeah, does anyone recognize this bridge? So this is the Brooklyn 18 at that point.
Yeah.
And it connected Brooklyn and New York, which were two different cities at the time. So this bridge had a really strong, really big impact in the way that people were then able to move about in the place that they were in and made New York City what it is today. So this is a really inspirational bridge that lots of famous artists and comic book writers, musicians have paid their respects to. And it really impacts the identity and the emotion of people that live there. So if we compare that to this bridge, we have kind of a similar thing going on as the previous images, in which we have two often bridges, but each of them, they maybe function in a way that they need to. They, like the bridges, both bring people to different places. But I'd say that this one definitely makes us feel not quite as excited or scared about using it and its impact in the built environment.
Oh, man. That should look familiar.
So how does this corridor make people feel? Terror. Anxious, cramped. This makes me feel like a back hallway to the principal's office or something. But kind of the same things, it's enclosed, it's claustrophobic, not fun. This is another corridor. These are both from schools. And my school growing up certainly didn't look like this. But I wish it did. It's got lots of natural light, lots of interesting things to look at, and having stairs there makes it kind of interesting. But just all goes to show how the design of these spaces can really change how you feel about using them and about life in general. So this is another office from the exterior. And this kind of reminds me of the same kind of office space situation from before. Just not very inspiring. We've got a lot of plants, which we were saying earlier was really nice, but it's not super exciting. However, this office is a little bit more exciting for me.
I think you're
Does
biased.
anyone? What's that?
Aren't you a little biased on that one?
A little biased,
A little bit.
but we'll get to why we're bringing this one up.
Cool.
This is actually the same office as the previous one. You can notice the trees are the same, the street sign and the utility poles are the same. And just goes to show that, the same exact building can be designed in such a way that makes it way more inspiring and inviting. And to add to that, this building became the 19th Living Building Challenge certified project in the world. This is our office in Sacramento, and it was actually the first in the state of California, which is pretty cool. So this is like a real good example of what should be happening and what is possible in the built environment, and how humans can cultivate restorative ecosystems in which the building can benefit both humans and the natural communities. This building, as a living building, it's kind of a living thing. It has a bunch of solar panels up top, so it collects its own energy to power the building. Does anyone have any idea what this is? Can you see my mouse circling that thing on the left?
Any ideas? You guys are
Yeah, so Will's saying it's a water tank, water storage. So it's a rainwater collection cistern. So also on top of the roof, we're collecting a lot of rainwater from that. And Sacramento has kind of a similar climate to Salt Lake City in that they don't get a ton of water. So using water as like a super precious resource is really important as summers get hotter and drier. So this rainwater collection tank keeps all that water on site, and we can use it to flush toilets and to water the plants that are inside and around the outside of the building. And about that project.
Is there sound with this? Will, is there sound with this?
Oh, and if you can't hear it, there's just kind of some cheesy inspirational music playing in the background. Sorry if that's not coming through. You're not missing out on too much.
Good. Do you guys like to be able to run the walls?
All right. So moving forward, we've learned how, especially with projects like that, we can really make buildings nicer for people to use and that are also less impactful on the surrounding environment. And overall, this goes to show that architects have a lot of influence and responsibility, and that we would be better off if the people who were creating these spaces that we live in and experience every day or work in were a little more representative of all the different types of people who inhabit those spaces. As an example, Has anyone heard of Druid Ego? Have you gone over that in class by chance or
Not
heard
yet.
of it elsewhere?
Nope. You get to be
Okay,
the
so
makes it to
this is a building that was in St. Louis. It's built in 1951. It was designed by this group of modernist architects to solve a lower income housing crisis. And these architects were mostly a group of white males who had a belief that their architectural ideas could solve the problems of the people that they were designing for. And this came out to great fanfare. It was seen as this huge breakthrough in urban renewal. And residents initially considered it to be like an oasis in the desert. And they like when compared to the extremely poor quality of housing they had occupied previously. And they had considered it to be safe. Some people referred to it as the apartments as a poor man's penthouse. So what actually happened was this building was demolished not long after it was built. Basically, funding was inadequate to provide for proper upkeep of the buildings. Ventilation was poor and centralized AC was non-existent. The stairwells and corridors attracted muggers. Parking and recreation facilities were inadequate, and playgrounds were only added after tenants petitioned for them to be installed. So explanations for why it failed are pretty complex, but it's often presented as an architectural failure. So in thinking about that, again, architecture is all about the people that use the spaces, not just the buildings. So even when architects are designing spaces on behalf of their clients, they're really designing spaces that serve everyone. So by focusing on the people that experience a space and how that space influences the way they experience the world, then architecture can change the world because it's people that change the world. So, creating these spaces that make us feel calm and relaxed and excited really helps us better overall. Do you want to take some time to stop and answer your questions, Dr. Paskett?
No, I think I'm just trying to get them to think a little bit. So I'm just throwing some questions out there to kind of give them a little thinking time. Because you're bringing up some good points about what it means to design. They're in the middle of, most of them are in the middle of getting about finished with their first project. And in 2 weeks, they'll be designing their first house from scratch. And so they're in the process of understanding what that means. And then the other half of the class is about a fourth of the way into a commercial design. So this is really kind of timely for them.
Cool. That's so awesome to hear. I wish I had been doing that when I was younger. So in order to keep thinking these things, how we're thinking about people, we're thinking about how buildings really have this huge impact on people that are in them and the environment around them. Our firm is a big proponent of the International Living Future Institute and their program, the Living Building Challenge, that we talked about a little earlier. But this is really exciting because architecture was never like this before. Back in the 50s, we were designing things that were really not great for people to be living in. And now there's a huge push to really make things a lot better for the people that are using them. And one way to do that is, this graph shows that we're trying to do things that contribute positively to the people and environments that we live in, work in, and just experience daily. And this often takes a lot of work, but it's so worth it. And that's definitely not typical to our profession and a lot of the people that work in it, but we're really pushing to make that more of the norm. And one important thing to think about is sustainability. The word to sustain means basically to keep things going as is, to not really change anything. So we're trying to shoot beyond that and do things that really give back, that are regenerative, that are creating, that are just better overall, and provide for the places that we're in, the people that use them. So this is, can we create transformative design, envisioning a future that's socially just and culturally rich and ecologically restorative rather than sustaining? That inspires everyone to get out and participate, that allows everyone to. We have a big issue with people that have different abilities and that are in wheelchairs or other have other impairments. So how can we make things easier for everyone to be involved? We all have a right to clean air and clean water. We shouldn't need to be worried about, especially in Salt Lake, poor air quality. And to do that, can we create new, inspiring, regenerative ways of moving around the cities we live in? And these are issues that people in architecture and other associated professions can have a really big impact on creating. So we need more perspectives in these fields that are representing the peoples that are using these, using this the city that we're in, moving around in it. So, all in all, architecture and just designing the built environment in general through lots of different ways. We have architects, landscape architects, civil engineers, city planners, just builders, not to say just builders, but people that build the places that we use are also super important in this endeavor. And so we have, infinite potential to create really impactful places for people. And we'd just love to have, hopefully inspire you guys to come join us in this field. So that's the end of.
Well, what does it take to become involved?
So that'll be part of the next
phase 2
presentation, I believe, that my friend will be doing.
Okay.
But yeah, usually that means doing exactly what you guys are doing, taking these types of courses in which you're learning to design and, document how you're doing them. And usually that means going to college and getting, these sorts of degrees. But we also have people in our office that didn't go to college. They had enough experience from high school drafting courses that they are able to get into an office and then become licensed without actually going through, all of the education. So there's lots of different ways to do this, and we'll go into that further in subsequent presentations.
Cool. Well, thanks, Will. So what should they be looking forward to for 2 days from now?
Sorry, what was that last bit?
So this is kind of the introduction to it. Is there something they should do to prepare to be ready for the next session? Or what's the next phase here that they should be looking at?
So this is the why of architecture, is our first course. And we're trying to, when we approach any project, we don't start looking at a building as the first thing that we're doing. We like to meet with the clients and get to know who they are and what they're doing. and figure out, what everyone's all about. And then from that, we get a good an idea for what a building or space may be like. So then we move into the what of architecture, what is a building? What does it entail? Getting a little more specific in that regard. And then the how of architecture, and that'll focus a little more on how we can get into the profession and things we can do now to prepare for that. That's basically it for now. We don't have anything in particular to prepare, but just to think about these topics, these concepts of regenerative design, going above and beyond sustainability, but most importantly, how things, just like having daylight, as we notice, create a more calm and comforting, inspiring environment. Kind of these building blocks moving forward.
Yeah. So this is your chance to ask some questions about what you've seen so far. This is the why. What are your questions? Some of you are taking this class because you're exploring this as a potential career. How can what you've seen today lead you there further? It takes them a minute. They've got masks on, they're all muzzled. It's a little interesting dynamic now.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's very different. So why did you go into architecture again?
I always just liked building things growing up, drawing, and I built a table in shop class in high school for a record player that I had. And, the record player went on top and the records were stored beneath it on a little shelf. And, I had created something that I could have easily gone and bought from a store, but I had spent the time designing it and building it and then using it for, years afterwards. And that was really inspiring to me, that I could create something useful that came out of my own mind.
Okay, so Will has a question for you. He says, what is the one thing you wish you knew or one skill you wish you practiced more before entering into the field?
I think that drawing is so crucial to what we do. Even though we do like most things on the computer now, drawing is just such a good way to think through different concepts and details quickly. The computer has a way of making things kind of not quite as easy to work with. And I always loved drawing, but just thinking of a way that I could use drawing to communicate what I'm thinking, to take things that I'm seeing in my head and put them down on paper so I can share them with other people. And it looks like Damien had kind of the same question. And yeah, I think that drawing is just so important. And that's what we emphasize in our office a lot too, is just being able to draw to share your ideas and with your coworkers and with clients. And
did you take a drawing class, or did you just sketch around and doodle, and where did they go? What should they be looking to do from your perspective?
Well, the first drawing class I took was a drafting class in high school. Before that, it was just my grandmother was really big into drawing, so she would encourage me to do that. But I don't think I really took a formal drawing class until college courses.
So if they're really serious about getting good drawing skills, what would you recommend? Should they take a drawing class, or should they just try and wing it on their own, or what would you suggest they do?
I think that taking a class would be really good if they are offered through your school. Or YouTube has probably millions of drawing courses, and ones that are probably specifically catered towards architectural drawing. And I would encourage you to not just do this from an architectural standpoint of drawing, but just being able to go out and sketch anything, basically. That's super important. Looking at just like outlining things so that it looks like something that you're seeing. Also, looking at shadows and different textures, and trying to communicate how something feels as well as how something looks.
Okay, those are good. Any other
I
questions?
think YouTube would be a really good resource.
Yeah, they perked up when you said YouTube. They like that idea a lot more than taking a class. So I think that appealed to me.
Yeah, just remember to not just be watching the whole time, which is what I find myself accidentally doing.
Yeah, have to pause.
Actually doing the drawing part.
Any other questions you have for Will while we've got him? He's a licensed architect here in Salt Lake. He can probably answer more questions than I can right now. He's kind of thick of it. What's the outlook right now for Salt Lake for these kids if they want to come in and look at drafting positions or CAD positions, design positions?
It's getting much better than it was 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely pretty busy. We definitely slowed down over summer and fall, but we're definitely much busier now, which is good.
That's good.
And I'm seeing a couple other questions that I can answer real quick.
So it's the hardest.
Damien's asking, what is the hardest part? The hardest part about architecture is actually getting something built. You have an idea of how something will go before, in your head, that you put into a set of drawings that then gets shared with the contractor. And the contractor does the really important thing of saying, well, these are the issues that we see with this design. And then we work together to make it work. And part of that is money. Everything costs money and buildings are expensive. So getting things built within budget and in the amount of time that the client needs it it makes you really appreciate the builders that you're working with and using them as a really trusted partner. And that's something that's difficult, but also really rewarding.
Elias wants to know how you get your creative mojo going there.
I think for me specifically, I need to kind of get away from the work portion of it, and just kind of get into a new environment. So like if I need to start thinking more creatively when I've maybe been thinking, and I've been doing more technical tasks, I guess, then I like to step away and like step outside and take a breath and walk around a bit. And then really just, I think just starting to draw and just getting kind of lost in that. A lot of my drawings just look like crap, and because most drawings do from the start. And that's an awesome thing, because just drawing for the sake of it and not needing to feel pressure to make something totally like beautiful is really important. And looking at like Instagram and stuff is inspiring, but also kind of intimidating, because it's like, wow, these people are all doing such amazing work. But I try and limit doing that, because it's thousands and thousands of people sharing what they're doing. So it's easy to get lost in that. So I'd say that's actually a good way to not have the creative juices flowing.
Pitfalls. Victor, what do you mean by pitfalls? I think Victor's online. So common pitfalls that you fall into the field or all the time or some of the different time. Obstacles.
Obstacles. Something we like to say a lot is that all of the constraints or obstacles that we find should become opportunities. So a lot of the time that's something, say you're working on an existing building and there's like this, let's see, maybe there's like a big pipe exactly where you don't want it to be. It's like, okay, well, that pipe needs to be there for some reason. Let's make it part of the design and make it work for us rather than becoming an obstacle. Trying to think of something that would be a little more interesting, but I'm not sure, you know.
I think that's a common one. I think that Chevron pipeline up on the east side of the valley has caused more obstacles for architects to overcome than most in the valley.
Yeah, I think I know that one actually.
We've all dealt with that one at some point. Let's see.
Yeah.
Will would also like to know what are good jobs to look at while attending college.
Building. If you can work for a contractor and learn how to actually build something, you know, in high school or in college or whenever, that is, you'll know so much. So many architects know nothing about how to actually build anything. And I would just highly recommend spending your time doing that. I also worked for like a landscape construction company. That was a really good experience. I mean, I worked in restaurants, which I wouldn't say is particularly beneficial for this career, but find experience anywhere that can be productive. But I think working for a contractor is a really good way to start.
And then Hallie would like to know what schools to consider for going into architecture. What your recommendations are.
Like universities?
Yeah,
I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, the U of U has a pretty good program that a lot of people that I work with went through and really enjoyed and found really, really good. You know, there's places where you can spend a lot of money, you know, go to like really big, like fancy schools, you know, like I didn't do that. But I actually went to school in Portland at Portland State University, and they have a really good, they have a group called the Center for Public Interest Design that does a lot of work with like communities and like homeless people experiencing homelessness over there. So that's what I really enjoyed about going to school there. Yeah, Seattle, University of Washington has a good program, University of Oregon. I guess it depends how local you want to be. Montana State has a good program too up in Bozeman.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions you have for Will, guys? Do we take enough time, Will, or not enough time? How do you want this to kind of, what is the kind of full plan here? Are we good on time? Or?
Well, we're about 45 minutes in. Okay. I think we're good, unless anyone has any other questions. I think we're
are you open
to jump off?
Are you open to contacting you if they have questions?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Email would be best, or I'm happy to have.
I don't have your
conversation if anyone's really interested.
Davis's email. If you want, can you send that
Yeah.
to me and I'll get to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That would be great. I'll just put my name here in the chat room real quick so you can see it.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you, Will. Appreciate you taking the time today. I know you're getting geared up for the busy season. This is the best time of year for architects in general, as a general rule. And hopefully we continue this growth we have for a few years to come. So that'll be a good thing.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys found this to be a good experience, and definitely feel free to reach out with any questions.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you so much. And if you'll turn back,
Yeah, thank you.
that'd be great.
How do I do that?
So I'll find my name and then just hit more and then make host again. So on the participants, I think that participants are should be at the bottom of your screen. And if you can find my name out, that would be the one.
Yeah, did that work?
Yep, that did. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for your time.
Great.
We really appreciate it today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, you too. All right. Okay, those of you who are in the class, if you want to log out of Zoom now, that'd be great. If you want to stay in Zoom, that's good too. I got to put my machine back together because I had to fake the thing out. So we'll see if we can get this all back going again. Okay, so what you're looking at is Nexus Architects. Kind of gets you an idea what's going on there. They are very, very interested in getting people to come back into profession. We are in a position right now where this is the only program in the entire district. This program used to be in every one of your schools, and interest has kind of waned. There's not a lot of interest going into the construction, the engineering, or the architectural fields, because it's like, I just want to sit at the desk and make a lot of money. Well, that doesn't really happen so much as it does in the movies. You have to have a skill set, and like you're saying, you guys have an opportunity coming up next a week from Friday to connect with various different disciplines within the field: architecture, interior design, landscape contractors, architects, home designers, and start making some connections. I just got you this one, so I'll get his information to you. This is someone you can ask questions to. So we are kind of the pilot program for the state with Nexus Architects to build interest in the profession. So we have 2 more of these sessions. I know it's not the best situation. Typically we bring them in and they wine and dine us and all that good stuff. It's just a weird year. But the thing is there's a lot of real cool things happening in architecture. And those questions I posted are legit questions. They're going through and they're taking that ugly building and pretty much tearing all the walls off of it and making it look better again. That's kind of what you do in the 3rd class. And that's what Isaiah is doing right now. That's what William's doing. They're taking these older buildings that actually exist in the valley and making them better. And that's why I thought this would be a good tie-in for the advanced class, to see that you can do just about anything you want. You don't have to keep those same 4 walls. And you've gotten your walls and them all away. So, and that's great. That's a great thing to do. Now, like you say, drawing is kind of one of those skill sets. We're not asking you to become, world-renowned artists. Like you said, his sketches or his drawings suck. They're ideas that you capture the idea. And don't just go out and sketch buildings, sketch apples, sketch a tree, try and sketch a dog. It's that understanding of shape and form that will make you be able to convey those ideas, okay? If you, like I said, YouTube has some really, really good videos. But again, don't just watch them. Watch and do at the same time. Learn from the video. You guys are, all the generations of time, you're the ones who are wired to do that the best. And we threw Zoom at you, which is not YouTube. It's not even close. But it does mean that we have faith in you guys to be able to make the connections here. So when they get, like I said, when they do the why architecture, what about architecture, and when about architecture as it comes along with these 3 sessions, to kind of get you a little bit of exposure as to why you're important. We have a lot of really crappy buildings in the world. Some of them start with Walmart, some with Shopko. They're just boxes. They're just big boxes. And then what do you do with them? We just saw Kmart kind of just disappear, and they're all over our valley. These big giant boxes. What do you do with them? Roller rinks. No roller skates anymore. So that's not an option. If it was 1960, then yeah, we could make them into roller rinks, but we don't do that anymore. Indoor skate parks. Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
But then you guys can take your shirts off and get your tan while you're out there.
Well, in the winter,
In the winter, so for 3 months of the year, they'd be profitable, and for 9 months they would.
well, yeah, but you could offer another.
You're absolutely right. I'm just giving you crap, but you are absolutely right. There are uses for those kind of buildings. They don't need to just become swap meets. They don't need to become warehouses. They don't become storage bins. I mean, most of them in the west side have become storage bins. If you got that much stuff to store something, throw it away. But it's my view. But yeah, so architecture is pretty powerful. And you saw the differences in those designs as to what happens when we change the environment. When we change the environment, what that does, if you bring softer textures in from plants versus with curved shapes instead of square walls or a stupid column in the middle of the room, just shift the, all I had to do is shift the rooms a little bit, you know, just 15 feet. We would fix the whole problem. But no, we wanted a hallway that went around a circle instead of going through the middle. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that you want to look at. So is there anybody left in Zoom? Just you guys. Okay, just don't want to kick anybody out here. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. We're going to go back to maybe, oh, I got full control of this yet. Okay. So I did.